Hello, everybody. My name is Carson Wood, and today I will be discussing 14 CFR 121.542. I will be discussing the history, such as the reason behind it, as well as any recent amendments that have been made to the rule. So, to get started, let's discuss what 14 CFR 121.542 actually is. 14 CFR 121.542 is more commonly known as the Sterile Cockpit Rule. This rule refers to flight crew members keeping all focus and conversation on the task at hand, which happens to be flying the aircraft. The regulation states that any flight crew member perform any duties during a critical phase of flight except for those duties required for the safe operation of an aircraft. So let's first define what the critical phases of flight are. The critical phases of flight consist of taxiing, takeoff, landing, and any operation that does not include cruising below 10,000 feet mean sea level, in which if any of these are being taken place, a sterile cockpit is required. This rule is usually taught very early on in training, especially in the preliminary stages of private pilot training, as it's very important to know and should be used in any situation. So let's discuss one of the main catalysts for 14 CFR 121.542. So on September 11th, 1974, Eastern Airlines Flight 212 was set to depart from Charleston, South Carolina to Charlotte, North Carolina. This is not a very long flight. The plane was a McDonnell Douglas DC-9. The DC-9 held 82 passengers on the voyage. The approach that was selected for Charlotte's airport was the VOR for runway 36. So at this particular airport and on this day, the weather was reporting ceilings at 4,001 and 1/2 statute mile of visibility due to some fog in the area. While these conditions are not necessarily ideal, it's still manageable, especially for an airliner. So now let's unfortunately discuss the accident that happened for Eastern Airlines Flight 212. Eastern Airlines Flight 212 crashed around 3 miles south of the field. So during the final descent, rather than focusing on flying the approach properly, the pilots were distracted by a recently opened theme park named Carowinds, which is just outside of Charlotte. The pilots' lack of focus caused a variety of issues. The first being that they disregarded a warning alerting them that they were just 1,000 feet above the ground, which is not much. Another crucial mistake that they made was that they were 1,800 feet below the final approach fix, more than 2 miles away from the final approach fix, which is a horrible mistake. I mean, it's awful. And then, because of their mistakes and carelessness, 72 out of the 82 passengers were killed on the flight. So, about 6 years later, in January of 1981, the Sterile Cockpit Rule was created. The purpose of this rule was to eliminate all distractions in the cockpit in order to avoid another incident like Eastern Airlines Flight 212. Excuse me. So since 1981, there's really only been one recent update to the Sterile Cockpit Rule. That came in February of 2014. In February 2014, an amendment was made regarding the use of personal electronic devices. So the new updated amended regulation stated that flight crew members could not use wireless personal electronic devices for personal use while the aircraft was being operated. So for instance, if a pilot had an iPad, he or she could use it for navigation, looking at approach plates, etc., not texting or taking pictures or whatever. Thank you guys for listening today. I hope you learned something, and I hope that this video helps stress the importance of maintaining a sterile cockpit and keeping all focus on flying the plane rather than external factors.